Today we're exploring the problem in the text for Proper 11, Year C. So we've got Luke 10, verses 38 to 42. As Jesus and his disciples went on their way, Jesus entered a certain village where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. She had a sister named Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to what he was saying. But Martha was distracted by her many tasks, so she came to him and asked, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her then to help me." But the Lord answered her, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things. There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken from her." Before we dive into this chunk of story, we should acknowledge what came right before it. A lawyer who doesn't want Jesus's ever-expanding sense of neighbor to apply to everyone, who seems interested in finding the technicalities that might exclude some for the glory of God, asks Jesus about it. And Jesus tells a parable about a good Samaritan, a story about an enemy being neighborly, and the righteous, not so much. Now, being neighborly, making neighbors, being neighbors with everyone. Then they come to the house of Martha and Mary. And Martha sets about being a good host, and Mary sets about spending time with Jesus. And Martha gets mad at Mary about it. And Jesus seems to be on Mary's side. Years ago, someone came up to me after church and said, "You know, engineers hate this passage." Really? Why? Because Martha is doing all the work. She's doing the right thing, and Mary gets to take advantage of that. Engineers do all this work that we don't even notice. And it sounds like Jesus hates that. That's a huge part of the problem here, isn't it? What do we make of this moment? On the one hand, Martha is doing all the things that she is obliged to do to be a good host to her guest. And Mary won't help her with it. Stupid siblings, always wanting to do their own thing and never taking orders. On the other hand, Jesus is pretty straightforward. Mary has chosen the better part, he says. So what is better about what Mary is doing? We first need to recognize that this isn't an objective right or wrong thing here. Cooking dinner for guests isn't always bad, and sitting with guests isn't always good, right? This isn't a class of how to do this to be a biblical host. And likewise, the usual take on this passage is pretty underwhelming. The part where we go, "Oh, Jesus is going to die soon, so spending precious time with him is the better choice." Sure. But if that's the case, why isn't Jesus telling Martha to sit her butt down? Where's the part where he helps her make that better choice to begin with? Like, if that's the big deal, why isn't he in there doing it at the beginning? I think the real point isn't that lounging is better than working, or that Mary is better, or even that Jesus is mad. It's that Martha is doing two things, right? First, she's assuming things. And second, she's judging her sister based on those assumptions. And the assumptions are what's off. In a sense, Martha thinks she has to do all this junk to be a good host, and that Mary is bad for not joining in that work. But Jesus doesn't expect any of that. He wants to be with them, right? That's his point. He says that Mary is distracted, so she can't see the problem, right? What with all the righteous work she's trying to do. So how does that help us? How does that help us host? The short answer is do less stuff and don't assume, right? Because you know what that means. But at the heart of it is to not be so distracted. In this case, distracted by being the best host, or the rules of being a host, or getting so full of the idea of being the right host that you yell at your sister for not helping you be the host, right? Or judging her hosting or doing any of that. In a sense, judging is a distraction, right? So be less judgy and more chill, like Mary. May God's grace be with you, and we'll see you next time.